And, let's jump back in and talk about what Bill Barr had to say. And it's a longer clip, and we don't have a lot of time in this segment, but it's so important to hear what he had to say, in my opinion. And this is the man who's going to be ultimately making some of the decisions along with John Durham. So let's take a moment and listen to that.
Did this?
Well, I think the big picture is this. From day one, remember, they say, okay, we're not going to go to talk to the campaign. We're going to put people in there, wire them up, and have these conversations with people involved in the campaign, because that way we'll get the truth. From the very first day of this investigation, which was July 31st, 2016, all the way to its end in September 2017, there was not one incriminatory bit of evidence to come in. It was all exculpatory. The people that they were taping denied any involvement with Russia, denied the very specific facts that the FBI was relying on. So what happens? The FBI ignores it, presses ahead, withholds that information from the court, withholds critical exculpatory information from the court while it gets a electronic surveillance warrant. It also withholds from the court clear-cut evidence that the dossier that they ultimately relied on to get the FISA warrant was a complete sham. They hid information about the lack of reliability even when they went the first time for the warrant. But in January, after the election, the entire case collapsed when the principal source says, I never told Steele this stuff. And this was all speculation. And I have zero information to support this stuff. At that point, when their entire case collapsed, what did they do? They kept on investigating the president and well into his administration after the case collapsed. But here, to me, is the damning thing. They not only didn't tell the court that what they had been relying on was completely rubbish. They actually started putting in things to bolster the Steele report by saying, well, we talked to the sources and they appeared to be truthful. But they don't inform the court that what they're truthful about is that the dossier is false. So that's hard to explain. And the core statement, in my opinion, by the IG is that these irregularities, these misstatements, these omissions were not satisfactorily explained.
Listen to that.
And I think that leaves open the possibility to infer bad faith. I think it's premature now to reach a judgment on that, but I think that further work has to be done, and that's what Durham is doing.
This, of course, is where the Inspector General is most critical of the FBI.
Listen to that. They knew by January of 2017 that Christopher Steele, who, by the way, only had one source for his dossier. He was talking to one other person who was feeding him a bunch of information, and that was a person named Sergei Milyan, who's a U.S. citizen, born in Belarus, former president of the Russian-American Chamber of Commerce, and he was Steele's source. Now, that's not widely reported that he was the source, but if you look into it, you will find that that is reported by people like the Washington Post. So they've admitted that that's Steele's source. They just don't want to talk about the fact that he was just, again, we talk about hearsay. He was just passing on second, third, maybe even fourth-hand hearsay that he supposedly got from his source. But then the FBI went and talked to the source, Sergei Milyan, and he said Christopher Steele didn't write down what I told him accurately. So the stuff in that dossier is not what I said. He has altered it to make it seem more damaging to the president, and the FBI knew that. But instead of telling the court, like Bill Barr points out, instead of telling the court that that the one source had repudiated Steele's reporting, they instead say that the source appeared to be honest. That's what they say. Honest about what? Honest about the fact that this whole thing is a sham. And listen to the language that Bill Barr uses. He says that the dossier was a complete sham and that the FBI hid the information. That's a big deal. That's big language that he's using. He's not using that because he doesn't have evidence of it. He's using that because that is essentially established in his mind. Now, John Durham's doing the actual investigation and will do the actual prosecutions, if any come from it. And boy, there really need to be prosecutions out of this. And it's not just me saying that. Devin Nunes says if people don't go to jail for this, this will go down as probably destroying our country's faith in the justice system. And it probably will, because there are a lot of people out there, and I'm interacting with several of them on Twitter, who are talking about, nothing's going to be done about this. It's just, incident after incident where justice isn't done. I mean, look at Benghazi. Look at the Hillary Clinton email scandal. Look at all of this stuff. Look at the coup, the soft coup that they tried to construct against a duly elected president. And if something is not done about this, if something's not done about the lying, the hiding of information, the using a false document to obtain the most invasive type of surveillance on American citizens that we have that's even possible, if nothing's done about this, and by the way, we haven't even scratched the surface on the scandals that we could talk about which nothing's been done. There's just a few of them. But if nothing's done about this, people are going to naturally conclude, and I couldn't say that they were wrong, that there's two kinds of justice in this country. There's justice for folks like you and me. When we lie to the FBI or don't tell the truth to the FBI, we go to jail for it.
It's like a tug-of-war game. The Democrats, they're not going to lose, so they tie their end onto a tree. And you can pull and do whatever. They're not going to lose. They're going to do anything they can not to lose.
Yeah. Well,
they're going to lose, though.
I hope they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose. I think that there's a reason John Durham and Bill Barr both came out with statements challenging the conclusion of the Inspector General. If they were going to finally conclude that at the end of the day, this was just sloppiness and mistakes, there was no need for them to come out with those statements now. We'll see what happens, but don't look for it to happen too soon, folks. Be patient. Bill Barr's already said that the process he thinks is going to wrap up sometime in late spring or early summer. I'd look for potential indictments of some of these people. And by the way, I sincerely hope that Jim Comey and Andrew McCabe are two that get indicted for their role in this, because they had a lot more than just some passing knowledge of what was going on. They were the instigators. They were the planners. They constructed this, and they even carried out parts of it, like when Comey went to meet with the president to tell him about the dossier so that it could get leaked to the media, and the media would run with it and publish it. Remember that? That happened in January of 2017, after they already knew that this whole thing was salacious and unverified. But now they don't want to take any responsibility for it, and they just said, look, I was wrong, he was right. I was wrong. It's no big deal. I just made a mistake. That's all. Well, we didn't get into our Out There, which was going to be all about Lyme disease, but I didn't want to give that too much a short shrift. So we'll come back to that on a future episode and tell you all about Lyme disease and how that may have actually been a U.S. biowarfare project that was released here in the United States. I'm Morgan Streetman, and that's the way I see it. Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And remember that we recommend that you exercise your brain at least once a week.